Society of the Irish Motor Industry Awards night, synthetic graphite, lithium find in India, Volkswagen in trouble with emissions again, training for classic mechanics, China not importing as many cars, Mercedes-Benz going to sell direct, and Formula E technology used on DS road cars. Hello and welcome to this week's MotorZen news. Society of the Irish Motor Industry, SIMI, had their awards night last week, and Body Accident Repair Centre in Dublin won the Body Shop Award, Rackcool Commercials won the CV Award, James Foy from Dromore West in County Sligo won the Recovery Award, Auto Express won the Sales Award, and Independent After Sales was won by Auto Assure, Franchise After Sales was won by Blackstone, and Franchise Sales Dealer of the Year was MSL Mercedes in Cork. The whole question of the availability of materials to make batteries for electric vehicles is constantly thrown up when I discuss this topic with anybody. Is there's not enough material, there won't be enough material, and I keep saying is that really there are definitely problems, but I believe there are problems that will be solved. And here's an example of that. A US company has developed synthetic graphite. So the issue when people looked at this was graphite was in quite short supply around the world, but this company in America has now come up with a concept to be able to make it synthetically, and it's an example of what the auto manufacturers, how innovative they are. Faced with problems that seem insurmountable, they're overcoming them, and I think this is happening at a much faster rate than it has in the history of the car. So when I have this conversation with people, I say yes, this is a problem, but I believe that the industry, the technology within the industry, the research and development in the industry will solve the problem. The two main countries for graphite were China and Mozambique. They believe they're going to be able to produce 35,000 metric tons of graphite a year from this factory in America. So again, this is another type of situation that was a massive problem. Innovation within the industry solving it. Staying in the same frame of mind, lithium is the other item that's thrown up, that there's lithium is hard to get and in short supply. Well, they're after finding lithium now in India, and again, car manufacturers have taken an unusual stance as far as lithium is concerned, because what they've done is, instead of buying raw materials from intermediaries, they've actually going direct to mining companies. Tesla, for example, deals directly with 3 mines in Australia. Stellantis deals with mines in Australia for cobalt. GM is a part owner of a mining company in America to get lithium. So now we have India also in the mix here now as well. They believe that the volume in this find in India will leave India the 6th largest producer of lithium in the world. Other countries that lithium is available from is Bolivia, Argentina and Chile. So again, yeah, the question of the availability of material and raw material to make batteries, there's 2 examples where it's just got better, it's just improved. Emissions problems for Volkswagen in Germany, and we're not talking about old emissions problems, we're talking about new emissions problems. An environmental group in Germany has taken the Ministry of Transport to court, and they've won. And what it appears to have happened is they've looked at a Golf, they've looked at the emissions of the Golf at normal temperature and everything's fine. They've looked at the emissions of the Golf at cold temperature and the emissions exceed what's permissible. They've looked into this, and what they've discovered is that the Ministry of Transport agreed to allow Volkswagen to use a car in this format. So effectively, this car does not meet the emission standard right the way through the temperature range. Effectively, when you look at this, it looks like what the manufacturer said is we needed to run rich. It's almost like old school. We need to have a choke on it when it's cold in order to protect the engine, they said. And the German Ministry of Transport accepted this argument. But the environmental lobby group has gone to court, and the court says this is wrong. This vehicle does not comply to emission standards. They've only done it on the Golf. This potentially is 10 million vehicles, I think, from Volkswagen, BMW and Mercedes. So going to be very interesting to watch how this plays out, because it's obviously going to be contested through the courts again. They're going to appeal it. So we'll keep an eye on this story and see where it goes. This is another story from America, but it applies to all over the world, because in the war, all over the world, we've got a shortage of mechanics. And this is an organization called Piston Foundation, which is setting out to try and do something about that. But it's doing it in order to try and develop mechanics for classic vehicles, not modern vehicles. And they've set up a foundation. The foundation is going to be, it's a charitable organization. You can give money to the organization. You can sponsor a scholarship within the organization. You can donate, or you can give your time and expertise. But it's setting out to be proactive about trying to make sure that there are mechanics around into the future to look after classic cars. And I think it's an interesting one, because I know that Ferrari did set up a training school in the UK to try and train mechanics on classic Ferraris. But I know these days you do find it hard to get a younger mechanic, through no fault of his own, to understand how to put in a set of plugs and points or a condenser in an old type ignition system. And really, if we're not proactive about this, it's going to become more and more difficult to get these cars maintained and serviced. China is importing less cars from Europe and Japan. Its exporting is going to record levels, continually growing its exporting numbers, but it's buying in less vehicles from Japan and from Europe. And this is an example of how the Chinese are really getting their act together with their cars. We're starting to see them penetrate the European market, and now we're starting to see them say, we don't really want as much of your European product as we used to. In 2022, they purchased 768,000 cars from imported them. That's down 18% on the previous year. And the brands that are losing out there are Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche and BMW, for example. Ferrari and Rolls-Royce, the extreme end of the premium, have grown their sales by 7%. But really what you're seeing now in the Chinese market is you're seeing the Chinese auction makers that are making well-designed cars that the Chinese consumer is now willing to buy. So really the evolution and development of the Chinese motor industry, we're watching it happen right before our eyes here right now. Last week we did a story which was about Renault saying that it was going to keep the traditional relationship with its dealers. And we do know that, because we've reported on it in previous shows, that Mercedes and BMW, for example, Stellantis had also done this, where when dealers are renewing their contract, in that contract is the option for the manufacturer to go through the agency model, in other words, sell direct. Well, the CEO of Mercedes has come out this week and said they're going to really put a big push on this year. They're going to bypass the dealers by using this sell direct model. They want to boost their profit margins by doing this. She's come out and said, which I find remarkable, that they're so open and honest about it. She's saying that this is a change away from being a wholesaler to a retailer, which is what I said. I said this is a completely new model of doing business. Traditionally, the manufacturer gave the vehicle to the dealer and the dealer dealt with the customer. In this model, the manufacturer is the one that's going to deal with the customer. And she's saying that this is a whole new way of doing business, which I do believe it is. Also part of this is they're saying they're addressing customer concerns where the customer possibly felt that they could have got a better deal with another dealer. So I think what she's saying here in this concept is that it's bringing much more transparency to the deal, that there will be one price. You'll go direct to Mercedes online and you'll get one price for the vehicle, and as opposed to having to shop around with various different dealers. The interesting thing about this is this cannot be done in America. This is only for Europe, because this will be illegal in America based on the dealer franchise laws. So the land of free enterprise is not really a land of free enterprise when it comes to selling cars. DS, which is the prestige brand within the Stellantis group, DS brand has been involved in Formula E racing since 2015. And as in so many things, sometimes with the racing and stuff like that, people look at it and go, why, and what's the point of it, and but again, with Formula E was pure electric race cars based on the concept of Formula 1. And what DS are doing right now is they're deploying some of the technology that they learned from Formula E to the road cars. And what they learned in Formula E was that energy recovery was a massive component to winning races. If you could get enough boost generated, enough power generated in your batteries, it was going to help you at the end. So the way that you could harvest the energy through the race was very beneficial to you in winning the race. The way they were doing this was with very, very deep analysis of the pressure being applied to the brake pedal, that they were matching that with the regenerative braking. That was giving you an edge in Formula E. If you were really taking the max out of the regen when the driver would apply the brake. So they're applying this technology now to the new DS7. So again, it's an example of racing and technology of racing now been deployed and coming down to the general car that the general consumer buys. Staying with racing, this week the series on Netflix has been launched, Drive to Survive. I think it's the 5th in the series. That in-depth analysis, behind the scenes look at Formula 1. So it will go, the new season is starting next week, but this program now will start with last season's races and give you that in-depth view. And the interesting thing about this is that Richie, that does the filming here with me, was not an F1 fan, and when we were talking about Drive to Survive on the show, he started to look at Drive to Survive and has got an interest in F1, which is good because I struggle to find people to talk to about F1. So we're both looking forward to the season ahead, and if you want to maybe learn a little bit more about F1, Drive to Survive is a good place to start. That's it for this week. Our numbers aren't massive, but we've got a fairly loyal following now. But if you could, guys that are watching, please, if you could share with somebody else in the trade, in the industry, it'd be a big help to us. Thanks a lot, and see you next week.